Welcome to Toffee TV. I am joined by our business expert, John Blaine, from the Everton Business Matters podcast, chairman of the Everton Shareholders Association as well, friend of the show, as well as many other things.
Patron of Health Through Sport.
Patron of everything. You're everything, aren't you?
Sponsor of our number 9.
It keeps rolling. John, we've had a question on Twitter from Jamie Martin 1878, who is Scout Submariner 1878, and this was the tweet to me. Baz, any chance of getting the lads from Business Matters on Toffee TV to discuss what a contract in football is worth and how it can affect a bid from another club? Well, Jamie, you asked 4 hours ago when I'm recording this. He's here. That's all I'm saying. He's our business expert.
Coincidence.
Paul, so the Esk is, we couldn't get him. I don't know where he is. He's in parts unknown. We've got John, who is, of course, our business expert on the spot.
So ask me again then.
So, John, Jamie wants to know what a contract in football is worth, how a club looks at it, I guess, okay, and how it can affect a bid from another club. So I'm guessing he's looking at, us going after someone, people coming after our players.
So when he said, we can use a flavour of the month example, I guess. So Richarlison signs a new contract in the summer, thereabouts, 5 years. Then all of a sudden, the following January, apparently some Spanish club...
There's a made-up bid by...
Some Spanish club
company
are apparently interested. And so your man is saying, well, what's the value of that contract then? Value is a good word. The player will be contractually bound to stay with us unless we sold his registration. Because we don't buy and sell players. It's like slavery, isn't it? We buy it, or football clubs buy and sell registration.
Of the player.
So if you use Richarlison as an example, he's registered to play for Everton. And if they fell out and we retained the registration, probably through the Premier League, UEFA, FIFA, he wouldn't be able to play anywhere in the world. So in this example, Barcelona are allegedly saying, we'll give you 85 million quid so that he can come and play for us. Okay. So the question is, what's the value of that contract? And it's probably not so much the contract itself having value, but the negotiating power it gives to the holder of the contract. Because clearly, if Richarlison was in the last 6 months of his contract, they wouldn't be offering 85 million, would they? Yeah? Because in 6 months' time, he'll go for nothing. And we've just seen that with players, haven't we? You've just seen Ericsson going off to Italy, that sort of thing.
For a reduced
cost, the longer the contract, the greater negotiating position we have in theory. And the reason I say in theory is because if a player decides he wants to go, it's almost like commonly accepted rather that there's not a lot you can do about it. There is, if you're prepared to play.
I was going to say, do you believe that?
It wouldn't work with me.
No.
But it's how bold you want to be on who blinks first. Because I would talk to. I mean, it's like when players are near the end of their contracts. And Lukaku's a good example, I think. Of we apparently had a gentleman's agreement that said if a certain thing happened, he could go. And sure enough, off he went to Manchester United, and we didn't have a replacement ready. We could have sat down with Romelu and said, well, that was then, this is now. You're not going. End of. Now, what can a player do if you say that?
Not much.
What can he do?
He can down to...
Well, there you go. Okay, so you use the example as an ex-player. You're thinking, well, what I'd do is I'd down tools. And I'd say, if I'm the guy who you work for, well, you're in breach of contract then. So I'm not paying you.
Yeah, fair enough.
And not only I'm not paying you for breach of contract, I'm withholding your registration. And it's the registration that has value. And if you're Romelu, Romelu Cass, or
Barry Lukaku.
Or Barry Lukaku. That sounds better, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
So Barry Lukaku goes, me no happy. Well, do as you're told then.
Get on with it,
Get on with it.
Well, we saw it with John Stones, didn't we?
But people, to a degree, but clubs struggle to do that, don't they? Because sometimes you've got your nose off to spite your face. It's easier to do with a younger player who you've got on a long-term contract and perhaps isn't earning huge money. Because clearly, if a Romelu Lukaku or a player of that standard is, earning over £100,000 a week and you stop paying him, you pretty quickly can end up in the high courts because big amounts of money are involved. So they always try and reconcile these things a bit more sensibly. And like most people listening, I guess, if a player doesn't want to play for you, sell them.
Get rid.
Yeah, but sell them for the maximum you think you can get.
I think what Jamie might be, let's say Gylfi Sigurdsson, for argument's sake. Everton paid £45 million to Swansea City for him. He's in and out the Everton side.
At the moment, he's injured, is he? Is he fit
he's
now?
back now, isn't he? He's fit. He'll be in the squad at the weekend. But in general, he was in and out. He'd lost his place, but he got back in through injuries. So he's a player who Everton have got on the books. I think a lot of people wouldn't be that bothered if Everton got rid of him.
Sure.
But Everton are never going to get £45 million for Gylfi Sigurdsson. His contract is reduced by it's nearly 3 years he's been here this summer, isn't it?
So he's a couple of years left.
So he's got 2.5 years left. He's halfway through, say. 2.5 years left. But how much is that? Because what would happen is clubs would have a worth of Gylfi Sigurdsson, and I think fans would look and go, well, we pay 45 million for him, so if we sell him for 30 million, we've lost 15 million pound on him. Is that how you look at it? Or do you look and go, well, what we're doing is we're saving 2.5 years of £120,000 a week. So that's how much his contract's worth. Or
right, okay.
Would you look at it from a business aspect?
Well, yeah, and perhaps that's really where the question's coming from. So let's do it two ways round first. One is the value of the contract is how much we pay the guy.
Yeah.
So if we oversimplify it, if we're paying him 100 grand a week, he earns £5 million a year. Yeah. He's got 2.5 years left.
12.5 million.
We owe him £12.5 million in salary.
In salary, yeah.
So let's pretend it's one of those silly things where the player, so we better not talk about one by name, but a player, for whatever reason, isn't going to play for us again. Okay, but he's not in breach of contract.
Yeah.
He's training hard. He's doing all the things he should do. He's enthusiastic. Hey, we've got players like this. Umar-Niasse is one. So in broad brush terms, he might not really play unless it's a last resort. So let's say you've got a player who's halfway through a 5-year contract on 100 grand a week, then we've got a negative against him, as far as we're concerned, that we owe the guy 12.5 million quid.
Yeah.
And he's going to get it at the rate of about 100 grand a week, therefore the 5 million quid a year.
Yeah.
But we've also bought him for a chunk of money. So if we say, to keep it simple, again, he cost us 25 million. Oh, do you owe 50 million quid? So he cost us 50 million quid. Then we've handed over the cash, or we've got a payment schedule for Swansea, if we're using Gylfi. That says we've got to pay you, in the end, a total of 50 million quid. And then the way you do that in accounting terms is, you can pay the 50 million quid, but you don't want to take that to your profit and loss in a given year. Because you really would die a death on financial fair play then. You do what's called amortise it over the term of his agreement. Okay. So
that'd be 10 million a year.
Yeah, and that's like depreciation, same sort of thing, same principle. So now what we say was, well, actually, what Gylfi costs us, if we're talking about Gylfi, is the 10 million per year of depreciation or amortisation of his contract, his registration, plus the 5 million a year
of his
wages. So 15 million a year. Each year for 5 years, he cost us 75 million quid. If you talk about this mythical player who's halfway through, but was never going to play again, and the plans are saying, sell him, get rid, sort of thing. So we find a buyer. Hurrah. Okay. We know we're going to save the 12.5 million. Because he's not going to be here.
Because he's not here.
So he's not going to be here. So that's good. The downside, of course, is let's pretend he's so bad or he's whatever, we're going to let him go for free. Then we can no longer amortise the remaining amount of money from the original contract. So we have to take that to the profit and loss in the year that he goes. Okay. And in our little example, it's 2.5 years at 10 million a year, isn't it? So it's 25 million pounds. So we logically lose 25 million on him that year. Now, clearly what we might do, if this was a player, is, and it's interesting because you can play tunes around financial years, because we've aligned our financial year the way we've aligned it now. Fortunately, transfer window's still open. So we may choose to sell him on the 1st of July, so that the hit of 25 million occurs in the next financial year, which is also the first year that in your mind's eye you're saving the salary.
5 million quid.
But you're still going to take a hit of 25 minus 12.5. So we'd have minus 12.5 million.
Yeah.
So if you're talking about a player, and it might be this guy called Gylfi Sigurdsson, you might argue that if you did what I just said, as long as you sold him for more than 12.5 million, you wouldn't take a negative hit on the profit and loss, but you would obviously prefer a positive one.
Yeah.
And actually, we played some tunes on the boundaries of the financial years in the last transfer window, where we sought to buy players in one financial year, having sold others in another, or vice versa, and that sort of thing. So the accountants do this for you, you know. And so the old adage thing of don't do it on Thursday, do it on Friday. Why? Because that's the last day of one year, and that's the first day of another year.
Will come in. I mean, that's an interesting way of looking at it, because someone like, say it's Gylfi Sigurdsson, for argument's sake, it was 50 million. It wasn't, but you know,
but just for the numbers,
we'd have had to go some for it to be 50, but it was, say it was whatever, say it was 50 just for the point.
Let's pretend it was. Makes the sums easier,
right? And we get to the summer, and
this summer, you mean?
Yeah, get to summer, and I don't know, Burnley, I've just got loads of money because they've sold Tarkowski.
And they'd like him.
We like Gylfi Sigurdsson, and we want to pay him. We want to pay you £20 million because that's what we think he's worth. To us. Instead of people looking at it going, gosh, 50 million and you're selling for 20, we've lost 30. You can't look at it like that, can you? You have to look at it and go, we've had the player for 3 years. It's cost 30. It's like basically you've loaned them for 3 years for 10 million per year. I think that's how we have to look at it.
But do it a different way.
Go on then.
Because, that's right.
Yeah.
And this is why you have clever guys, you know, with fancy spreadsheets, whether it's Grant Ingles or whoever does it at Everton, is clearly because you crystallise, and this is only in the profit and loss.
Yeah.
Because cash counts as well.
Of course.
Because the cash is gone. It went whenever it went. If you paid the 50 million up front, you've already spent the cash. It's just how you show it in the profit and loss.
Yeah.
Therefore, when you sell him for 20 million, on the P&L, you broke even. Because you've got 2 years left. If it's in the summer, you've got 2 years left, but you've just been given 20 million quid.
Yeah.
But you've got the cash. So that's goodness.
So that's good
okay?
as well. Yeah.
The flip of this, of course, is if you, and this is why it all gets interesting, and if you think Marcel Brand says he's done like 70 deals since he's been the director of football. You're trying to balance all this.
Everything out,
and legislation like, you know, bloody financial fair play or regulation, whatever you want to call it, blah, 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 is so those Spaniards come along, right?
Yeah.
And they say, we'll have that guy, you know, and we say, not enough money. So let's say they offer us 100 million quid. Forget the cash for now.
Yeah.
So we sell him. So the profit and loss benefits to the tune of £100 million.
Yeah.
Because you've sold him.
Yeah.
But we probably want a replacement, don't we?
Yeah.
So let's say we buy a replacement for 200 million. Assuming we've got the cash.
Yeah.
Then the profit and loss, and we sign that guy on a 5-year contract. So in the fiscal year that we sell him and buy the £200 million player, what's the impact on the profit and loss?
100 million.
Income 100. Amortised cost of 200 over 5 years, 40.
Oh, 40, yeah.
100 minus 40.
60.
Plus 60.
Plus 60, and we've got to double a player.
Yeah. But you've got a liability now, which is the liability. And you are going to take that hit every year.
Every single year,
you know, if you're playing tunes around financial fair play and all those sorts of things, that's the sort of thing you might do. And it's perhaps, and it all needs to play out, is how can PSG spend 200 million on Neymar? Maybe because they always had a plan to sell him again.
Yeah.
You know, and a chap used to say to me, in actual fact, when was it? God, 10 or 15 years ago. And he just had a dream of, he wanted an Aston Martin.
Yeah.
So he bought an Aston Martin Vantage. And his view was, okay, it's a £100,000 car, but you're only funding the depreciation.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah. So if you buy an Aston Martin for £100,000 and you keep it for 2 years and sell it for 80, it costs you 10 grand a year. And that's the way some of these things play out. And so I think some clubs play games, aggressive games, not quite up to Leeds' standard back in the day, whereby they might say just that.
Sail closer to the wind.
That as long, well, not so much. They made objective
Leeds
business.
did though, didn't they?
Yeah, but objective business decisions which say we will acquire an asset which I hopefully appreciates in value.
Yeah, not depreciates.
Or depreciates slowly, or always has some resale value, and maybe that is a player's registration, like a Neymar, or a Coutinho, or whatever.
Yeah.
And if it works for you, because you win the Champions League because of him,
You're getting a big pot of money.
And then you sell him on again, and actually it's only the difference between the two that he actually plus his salary, of course, which costs you.
I suppose from our perspective, it's magnetised because we've spent money on players and it just hasn't worked, has it? We, big money on Balassi and he got injured and we never seen any real value and we've had to loan him out. Sandro Ramirez was a relatively low outgoing in terms of what we had to buy him for, but his wages were high. And you're trying to balance that, and I think people are looking and going, we bought him and that didn't work, and we bought him and that didn't work, and we bought him and that didn't work. And he'll be buying good players, because clearly Richarlison, we didn't pay anywhere near what the papers reported, but eventually it'll be 40 million, whatever.
Course.
We sell him for 100 million, it'll be more.
Yeah.
But if we sold him for 100 million, 60 million profits.
But you bring us some good examples about and when Paul's doing his blog stuff, which we often reference in the podcast.
Yeah.
And of
what
course,
is the podcast called, John?
Everton Business Matters.
There you go.
It's like that without the S.
Without the S. Go on then. Yeah.
Copyright there.
Go on.
But because Paul will keep a mega spreadsheety stuff and stuff.
Yeah.
And we've spent time over the years trying to explain to people that because you get into net spend and all those silly phrases which EBM doesn't like. Yeah. But it's not just the real drag to a degree is wages. It's why the most successful clubs in the league are not necessarily those who spend most on transfer fees. It's the ones who have the highest wages. Unless you just throw money down the drain. Because typically the better players want to be paid the better amount of money.
Yeah, of course.
But you call out a few examples there. Yeah. And Ramirez is a good example to lay off against Balassi.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say we sign Balassi on a particular day for 25 million quid, and we pay him 100 grand a week.
Yeah.
As you know, the people doing the quick mental arithmetic, it costs us 10 million a year.
Yeah.
We get Ramirez for nothing from a transfer fee perspective, but he wants 200 grand a week. He also costs us 10 million quid a year.
Yeah.
So both those players cost us the same. And for whatever reason, they both turn out to be duds.
Yeah.
So we send Balassi out on loan, and some club pays all his wages for us. Okay, but it's still costing us 5 million a year because we're still depreciating the money that we paid for him.
Yeah.
Ramirez goes out on loan, and someone only pays half his wages.
Yeah.
And he's costing us the same. Yeah. So how the numbers are made up are different.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the outcome is the same. We're still costing us 5 million a year for that guy and 5 million a year for that guy. So in some ways, it's why getting players through Bosman and stuff like that, i.e. free transfers, is lower risk. Because clearly you don't take a hit if you sell
initially.
them. If you sell, initially.
Initially,
and then when you amortise, there's nothing to amortise. Therefore, if you get rid of him, as long as he goes and someone will pay his wages, you don't have that crystallising of the thing. And it's why when you have a player like Balassi and Klassen's a good one to look at because we basically endeavour to break even on that. And that, the original question was, what's the value of a contract? And we're sort of dancing around the fact that it becomes a problem, not just the contract, but the other contract, which is the commitment to spend the money in the first place. Because very few deals. Even Man United with this guy from Sporting.
Oh, Bruno Fernandes.
They're alleging up to 70 million quid or something they're paying for, but only 40 up front, and maybe the 40 up front is the fixed guaranteed amount, and then you got all these add-ons. So in their books, if he's on a 5-year deal and it's 40 million quid, they're going to depreciate him at 8 million a year, aren't they? If it turns out he can't cope in the Premier League,
sell him back.
Well, if they sell him back, they're going to want to sell him back
for big money,
for at least the unspent part of the depreciation. Otherwise, you have a negative impact on the profit and loss. So it's why sometimes you think, why the hell's Balassi every year going out on loan? Because we don't want to crystallise that money, and no one's prepared, presumably, to pay the amount which will allow us to break it even.
They're on big money, aren't they? And I suppose just before we finish it, because it is, the transfer deadline is tomorrow.
Is it? Oh, crikey,
tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Everton very.
Is Jim White going to be talking about Brexit instead? Yeah.
Possible.
Because you can't talk about transfer. Exactly right. Yeah.
You probably get Mark Noble and Declan Rice on to front it up with him.
You need a whiteboard to do this sort of thing.
people will be looking, and Everton are very unlikely to bring anyone in. Really
very
unlikely.
few clubs are going to be.
So therefore, Marcel Brands is trying to get players out. We've seen Anthony Evans leave the club permanently for Paderborn, and that'll be a few grand off the way. Not a lot, but a few grand off the wages.
Pennies and pounds.
Cuca Martinez, there's a really good possibility he'll leave the club as well. His contract's up anyway in the summer, so much like when Ashley Williams left a couple of years ago, it was done, and Kevin Morales, and the contract's running down anyway, you may as well go. Everton are quite close in terms of FFP and Premier League rules with wages. The thing that we're getting asked when we say, there's no real manoeuvre, there's no real room in the wage bill at the moment to bring in a player and let's be honest, it's for 13 games. That's all that Everton have got left, because he's not going to play clearly. If we brought someone in today, tonight, tomorrow, he's probably not going to play on Saturday, so there'll be 13 games left. Is it worth paying someone X, 2 million quid in wages or three for 13 games of football if you're not sure? No. So what will be the difference in the summer is what I'm driving at in terms of that manoeuvring with the wages, because we've seen a lot of people that, Carlo Ancelotti's kind of hinted at it. Marcel Brands at the AGM the other week hinted we'll do our business in the summer.
Well, indeed, because that's when the world's different places, isn't it?
So that'll be the financial crossover again, won't it? Yeah. In terms of the year.
Oh, the financial years, you mean? Yeah, because the year will end at the end of June.
So that'll free us up and give us a bit more room in the.
Well, we'll move from one year of the 3-year cycle to the next one, And actually, but the real issue is all the money we spent in the financial year that ends this June, will all be in the cycle. So that's where you get to the 105 million, all those numbers, right? But if we just remember it as it's total cost of ownership, really.
Right.
Because when financial use that FFP, or clearly we've got the Premier League equivalent, sustainability and all those good things, and they've changed the limit on what you can use broadcast money for, so the wages thing isn't as onerous as it was, and all that sort of stuff. But fundamentally, if you're only allowed, it's a horrible way to say it, isn't it? You're only allowed to lose a certain amount of money in a 3-year cycle, And our football club has said we're not compromised by it. Now, clearly, when we had the general meeting, when we saw the accounts and that sort of stuff, we were, in quotes,
94,
well within what was allowed,
well within,
and people will forecast what it's going to be next time and so on, and it has the potential to be tighter, So we have to have players going out, and we probably can't afford to crystallise undepreciated amortisation and those sorts of things. So we're probably going to find those mistakes, whether it's a Balassi or a Cuca Martino or whoever else is buried in the books, because I don't carry it around in my head. Is we'd rather them just cost us nothing and just let the depreciation fall away. But the flip of that, of course, is that when they're fully depreciated, we come well within the rules. And therefore, whatever. So what the club that implies they might not be. What they will be doing is going, all right, well, we know that registration is fully depreciated in that year. Therefore, we've got that much to play with. Therefore, we signed this guy on 3 years, we're all right.
We're all right with that.
But if we sign this guy 5 years, we're definitely all right, because it goes. But then eventually there'll be a period of 3 years, won't there, where anyone we've bought like from a year ago to a year and the other side of it
won't be in it.
Are going to be in it.
Oh, will be in it
because of every year you sign players for 5 years. There's going to be a 3-year period where there's a lot of players in it, and they have to forecast that and And so people will say we're not going to stay within these rules unless we sell somebody, or we get a big slug of income that compensates for some of these activities. Unfortunately, through the sponsorship of the prospective new stadium at Bramley Moor, that's given us more headroom.
Excellent. To finish it makes more sense really for us anyway to do our business in the summer anyway, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's always better, because most professionals would say it's not panic buying, isn't it? But it's emergency buying in January. Your goalie's broke or whatever. Or the player you wanted is available. Because you will have some players playing for certain clubs, I suppose, who they wouldn't sell while they were still in the Champions League, and then they're out of it now. And there have been some really very good players who've changed clubs in January. But
there is only a small list, though.
Yeah, but
it does happen. Listen, even Virgil van Dijk went to Liverpool in January.
If only they are exceptions that prove the rule. But if it's the player you want and he's available in January,
You buy him, don't
you get him when you can, because you wait till the summer and someone else gets him. I think what's going to make this summer a bit more awkward is there's a major competition going on, yeah, and therefore some players' wages, in fact wages as well, but some players' transfer fees may be, you know, inflated because they have a great Euros or something. You know, a striker who gets the golden bloody boot thing for the Euros is you know, his club's going to ask for more money, isn't it? Yeah. So the other thing which is interesting is we're seeing, aren't we, more and more examples of, well, we'll have that player on loan and in 2 years we'll buy him.
Yeah.
And that's just because they're putting off the impact for things like FFP and the like. So it all needs to be creative, and it doesn't really, well, actually, if you work smarter, it might give you a competitive advantage, but they're all doing it. And so this market in January will be not very helpful for Sky because they ramp it up, and it's just going to come in. Well, it's almost gone, hasn't it? You know, there'll be, no doubt, Sky tomorrow will be talking like crazy, pretending something's going to happen, which is outrageous. But the club,
the reality,
our club, I mean, what do we need, and who we need when you turn it into targets? Are they available in January? Probably not.
And I suppose the question becomes, and this really is the end now. I suppose the question becomes, and you'd have to step away from it almost as a fan because you're emotionally involved and you always want players, you always want to feel like you're improving. Sure. But the reality is, like I said before, 13 games, or wait for the one you really want in the summer. Like you've just said, if the one you really want available now, and I'm sure if Carlo Ancelotti or Marcel Brands went, listen, there's this central midfield player, Adrian Rabiot, who's at Juventus, great player, we can have him. Juventus are happy to sell him. He's going to be in our team for the next 3 years. I'm sure Everton would have gone, right, how do we do this deal, and done it. There's no point panic buying. And you've got to look and go, listen, we'll take another 3 months and then we'll get the player we really want, because we've seen too much of this grabbing. We've got Cenk Tosun, who's actually had to go on loan to Palace.
Arrived in January, he's gone in January.
Walcott, who, all right, he's done okay, but I think most Evertonians would replace him with something better.
It's about value.
January
it's about value, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you think you've had good value from that player? And I think on Walcott, for me, emphatic no. Tosun, emphatic no. And we got them in January.
For 50 million quid. Well, 45 million quid.
Whatever it was. Whatever it was.
And wages.
Yeah.
So it's better sometimes to just hang fire, isn't it? I suppose if it was like, if we get this centre forward, we'll get in the Champions League, let's pay the money. That's a different question, then, isn't it? That's then, shall we gamble to get to that thing? But I suppose for Everton, it's a case of,
if you talk, because I did say panic and emergency is a good reason.
That's the biggest one.
An emergency is a good reason to do it in January.
Yeah, of course.
Which is, you know, second only to it's the player you want anyway.
Yeah.
Panic is the worst reason, but we may have got to panic if Don wasn't scoring goals.
Yeah, true.
And Mason wasn't doing the business in defence, and we were 5 points worse off than we are now. You know,
then we may have done something.
Yeah, then we may have thought we have to do something.
We're seeing it with West Ham, aren't we? They're trying to grab anyone.
Well, they will
at the moment
because sometimes the change is as good as, you know, and all that. But we've got a little bit of comfort, and, you know, we can keep the, you know, was it 1 defeat in 9 or something?
Yeah.
If we turn that to 1 defeat in 15, then we did the right thing. If we lose the last 3 games in a row, there'll be fans out, we should have bought somebody. Yeah. Calvert-Lewin stopped scoring, flashing the pack. You can see it all. People just emotional.
Of course, because everyone's...
And Mr. Brands and Mr. Ancelotti and, you know, the people who give them the money are paid not to panic, not to make emotional decisions. We have a plan, you know, the old scuba dive thing. Plan the dive the plan. And therefore, but we clearly have some interest, because if we don't have any interest at all, we could have said weeks and weeks and weeks, hey guys, we're not buying anyone, because we don't. The manager's comfortable with what he's got, and because we've got a new manager, there'll be a lift in performance. Yeah, the longer he's the manager for, and that'll deliver more value, as you rightly say, than spending a shed load of money on a guy for 10 or 15 games.
And also gives the manager a real chance to assess the squad.
Very
and go,
clever of the previous management to get out of the cups, because that might have...
get out the cups and get out the club. Let the new fella have a look.
Because that might have caused us to panic if we're in the 5th round and we think we need somebody.
We've got an opportunity yet. So.
Okay.
There you go. Big thanks to Jamie for his question. Big thanks to John for explaining it.
If I did.
If we did, yeah. I mean, I feel like... I feel like I understand it more, and I think sometimes as a fan, you are totally absorbed by things like Sky because you look just to see who's buying who. And Sky have done, Ped said this when we done the live yesterday, Sky have been brilliant at creating this hype that you have to buy in this you've got to buy on deadline day. And we often, we've often said, like last summer, we done a deadline day live for 6 or 7 hours or whatever, and loads of people were on going mad, and fortunately a Wobie come in and it calmed a few people. But we were saying
we got a play called
we've got a play called the Wobie's back this week. But Moise Keane had signed 3 days earlier, everyone was made up. But if Moise Keane would have signed on deadline day, it'd have been fireworks in the street and everything. And it's just because Sky hyped that one day, where the best clubs have it planned, don't they? And go, we'll have you, and we're done. And we need to get away from yellow tie day. That's it. That's what I'm saying. Big thanks to Jamie. Big thanks to John. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't. Joined us on Patreon if you want more great videos. Put your comments in the comments section below. Are you calm with Everton not signing anyone? Are you a bit clearer on what John was saying? Does it give you a bit more balanced view, or do you just think, no, still think we should be buying players? Because some fans will. No issue with that. Big thanks for watching. See you later.